to do Italian. So a lot of the movies that we would watch would be in this like deserted beach area, super nice, clear water, white sands, and that was a place called Sardinia that I don't have a picture of it, but it's super nice. It's a place I'd go to again, right? But it's one of those places like you learn about it and you see it for a long time and you always want to go there. And I got to go there and it was just super awesome. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. They talk about specialty skills within engineering, and I know you've done a lot of training.
Yeah. So there's a lot of specialties, right? So like, even if you do engineering, right, there's all sorts of mechanical engineering. There is electrical engineering. There's mechanical engineering. There is civil engineering where you do bridges and roads and buildings, right? There's a lot of types of engineers out there, and even within those engineering um, kind of specialties, there is more focused, right? So if you go and you do your bachelor's in a certain type of engineering, you can do your master's in an even more specific field, your PhD in an even more specific field, right? Once you do your PhD, people are hiring you for that, for you being an expert in a specific subject, right out of college. So it's pretty cool. We have people that are experts in all sorts of fields in Schlumberger, right? Some people know about geology, some people know about equipment. Some of these engineers that we have in the company, they've made hundreds of patents. They've gotten some ideas that have made the company like a good amount of money, and they're the guys you go to when you want to, if you have an idea and you want to kind of develop it a little bit more. We have this mentoring within the company. And you have these high-level engineers that just, they're really good at what they do, but they focus on something very specific. So yeah, so there's a lot of things you can concentrate on, right? So engineering is not like one thing, right? It's a whole lot of things, and especially if you change your mind and you don't want to be an engineer after you go to and you study engineering, you can, right? People hire you for your troubleshooting skills and your ability to learn stuff quickly and execute, right? So yeah.
So another question came in about, I know when you're talking about working with under pressure in those areas when you're a field engineer, aren't you scared of going up knowing that you're risking your life on that equipment?
Yeah, it's dangerous, but it's not it's in the times that you feel scared, you have to think about like all the safety that goes into it, right? And as an engineer, you get to appreciate all the different safety mechanisms, right? You think about, dangerous things. We don't even realize it, but being in a car is pretty dangerous, right? That's one of the most dangerous things you can do is drive around. And for us, even being in the field with all this dangerous equipment, driving is one of the most important things. We go to a training a week long just to teach us how to drive in these harsh conditions. And, if it's raining a lot, if there's ice, if there's mud, what do you do if your car goes out of control? Yeah, believe it or not, driving is one of the main things, right? Like think about it. What if your brakes go out in your car, right? What are you going to do? It's pretty dangerous, but you get to appreciate all the engineering controls that go into where you're working, right? If this fails, there's this sensor to detect it. If there's this sensor that says it failed, this stops, right? And things of that nature. So we're constantly making it safer. We're constantly thinking about what ways to reduce the risk, to reduce the people from being out in those areas, right? And most of the projects that I've done, especially with equipment, have been to do some remote operation. So the operators don't need to get near the equipment, right, while it's running. They can run everything from a trailer on a computer screen, right, and just use touch screen from far away. So that's actually been pretty cool, right, is making these workplaces safer for everybody. With some of the projects that I've got to work on.
Awesome. Another one came in as kind of a follow-up. What's your biggest project that you think is?
Yeah, so my biggest project was the one I mentioned for finding a better way to ship materials around a more efficient way, right? So we were spending $4 to $6 million a month in the United States to because we were not doing it efficiently. And now with this rolled out, we're saving that money instead of wasting it. So it's been really rewarding to do something at that scale with the idea that I came up with. So it's my biggest project, not because of the size of the project, but because I took it from initial concept design to all the way to implementation, right? So for me, it's one of the longer projects that I've worked on, and it, brought it to fruition. So yeah, it involved, working with operations, working with software engineers, AI engineers, cloud engineers, right? So we use a Google Cloud to be able to run all of this, and then probably a team of 10 to 15 developers working on it, right? Which is really cool. And then people in the field to test out the different things that we're doing and make sure that it's working appropriately. So there's, a group of like 5 field engineers that were working with me to make sure that what we were working on worked properly and we're able to do a good job. So yeah.
That's good. The impact that you had on your job and professional.
Yeah. Somebody asked, how much money do you make? So as an engineer, I think so. I mentioned this earlier. So they take a poll after you graduate of how much money you're making to see like what are all the different engineers and how much money did they get paid right out of college. I think the range was between 50 to 75. If you look at the average salary in the United States, it's about 57, right? So right out the gate, you're making average, if not more, than the average person in the United States, which is pretty cool. I was on the higher end of that. Now, a couple of years in, now I'm 8 years in, you make well above 6 figures, right? So it's pretty rewarding as far as like what you get to do, but also, financially, you get to make a good amount of money, right? And the hard work that you did in school, pays off, right? So it's you work hard in school and in college, but you also get paid more, right? So it's something that takes a lot to pay off, but it does.
Excellent. I think there's a question that came in, since you've been in so many places all over the world, did you have to learn new languages, or did you already know some languages that helped you there, or how did you get by?
So I mean, most places you'll go to know English, surprisingly, right? But I did, when I was in Russia, I had to learn a little bit of Russian to make sure that, I can say certain things like where I wanted to go, if I wanted to get a taxi, how much, those type of things that you need to know the language. When I went to Italy, it's kind of nice because I had learned Italian in college. I know Spanish as well. So that, you can go anywhere in Latin America, Spain. So, I know Spanish. I learned a little bit of Italian, and then wherever I went, you learn a little bit of that language, right? But it just depends on where you're going. So I worked just 2 months, but since this is a worldwide company, there's people that work. They'll move them there for their job, and they'll be there 2-3 years, right? And they'll get moved around all over the world. I've been pretty local here in Texas as my main job, but they give you an option. If you want to move around the world, you can, right? But it opens up opportunities, right? Because what if there's a really good opportunity for your career in another country, but you have to move, right? But you want to stay in the US or you want to stay in South Texas, your opportunities might be limited by doing that, right? So opening your scope, telling them, yeah, I'll go wherever, whenever, really opens up the amount of opportunities that you have. And that's essentially what I said at the beginning was, wherever you want to take me, doesn't matter. I'm there. So that's a good way to kind of accelerate your career, right? Is having your options open.
Excellent. We're about out of time. What I would like to end on, if you don't mind, Ivan, is kind of what you shared with the last group, and that is about the hard work and trying things that maybe you're not comfortable, learning things you don't know. That, what was this phrase you said?
Yeah. So one of the phrases that really kind of like blew my mind was, you don't know what you don't know, right? So, right now some things that you don't know, right? Like you're in high school and you know high school math, but you might not know calculus, right? So you know you don't know calculus. But what about like differential equations? You might not even know that that exists, right? Do you know all the things that you don't know, right? That you don't know. So that's very interesting, right? So constantly, you know, growing up and even today, um, I'm trying to figure out all the different things I don't even know about, right? Not learn them, but just know that I don't know them, right? Know that they exist, period, right? And then little by little learn more about each one of those things that I know I don't know anything about, right? So that's a good way to you know, open your horizons and figure out what's out there, what might interest me, right? Like if you don't know much about engineering and you know you don't like it, then there's still a lot more to learn, right? You know, math is an awesome subject. Science is awesome subject. You know, the more you dig at it, the more you learn about it, the more awesome it is, right? It's a good thing to keep studying.
Awesome. Last chance. Any last questions? Anyone out there? I know you can tell when the bell rang. Classes started dismissing. Kids are leaving. So our numbers shrank from the low 20s to now we're single digits.
Yeah, I think I see some people over there. EIDAC.
Yeah, looks like they're walking in. Another class.
Nice.
Any questions? It kind of jumbles them sometimes. They're moving around on this. So I want to make sure I don't miss any. The most recent ones are just thank you, thank you, thank you. Take the time out of your day. Oh, here's someone from Vanguard Mozart that they also attended Lincoln Middle School and Nikki Rowe. That's cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I grew up there in the Valley. You know, I use the same Gear Up resources that are available to you guys. I don't know, maybe even more resources now, but yeah, it's an awesome program, right? I was sitting in your desk. How many years ago? Maybe 20 years ago. So it's pretty cool to think about. You know, there's all these students now. Maybe thinking about being an engineer and not knowing, hey, is it possible, you know, can I take the right courses or can I learn the right stuff? Yeah, it's totally possible, right? And the resources are there. So that's pretty cool to see you guys being interested in getting to talk to you guys about it. There's a lot of stuff that I wish I knew at that point, and that's why I kind of, you know, try to share with you guys what I know. If you guys want to be an engineer, raise your hand. Oh, they got a lot of hands over there. Do you guys have any questions? I know you guys just came in, but is there any questions about being an engineer? What kind of engineers do you guys want to be? You don't know. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to know. That's the cool thing about it, right? So like if you know you're interested in something, you know, look into it, right? You have the resources there through Gear Up to start just like figuring out, hey, is this something that really interests me? If you're not necessarily sure, don't let that hold you back, right? Take advantage of these resources, try it out, and apply yourself, right? Don't just hold yourself back because you're still unsure of what you want to do. You know, go to these camps, figure out if that's something that interests you. You know, designing things, coding things. Do I want to go to a school like this in the future? Those are all the things that I was doing when I was your age, right? And figuring out, you know, I kind of like engineering, but is it am I really going to do it for like the rest of my life, right? Or for at least college and the near future after that. So yeah, I mean, I just kept learning more and more, and I kept getting a little bit more interested in it, and just kept following down that, rabbit hole, right? Studied mechanical engineering, and then now I got to experience a lot of engineering jobs in my current role.
Well, I love that you even started in aerospace engineering, thinking that, you're going to just talk about that just real quick, just to kind of wrap up.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I started, I didn't know if I wanted to do like aerospace engineering, which has to do with like spaceships and, going to space and rockets and satellites and things like that. I knew that was something I liked, but I also like cars, right? I would see cars, I'd be interested in it. I was like, oh, what kind of engine does that car have? How fast does it go, right? All the technology involved in cars. So I was like, okay, I either want to design cars or, do something with space. At least that's how I felt when I was in eighth grade, right? So then, or in high school. So I applied to those different things. I got into aerospace, and I tried that for a little bit. And then I learned that, hey, I want to do something a little bit more general than just aerospace, and mechanical engineering was a good compromise for that, right? Mechanical engineering is a little bit more generic. You learn a little bit more things, but
It's more marketable.
it opens the doors, right? So you're still an engineer, and you can do a lot of things, right? So that's why I liked mechanical engineering. It also had really cool projects. So we designed a car, right? I talked about that a little bit earlier. If you walked in late, maybe you can watch the YouTube video on it. But yeah, I talked about the things that I did while I was in college, and it was pretty rewarding. I definitely liked that program.
All right. Well, you've given us almost an extra 10 minutes, so I really appreciate your time today, Ivan. I will let you wrap things up. I know you've taken quite a bit of time in planning for these 2 sessions today, and then devoting, of course, your time throughout the day to be here to mentor these students, to educate them, and answer a lot of their questions. So once again, thank you all for your participation, and you'll have a great day, and I will be sharing the links to the videos. There's Missy Senna. Thank you, Isela, so much for securing Ivan today. It's been great.
Yeah, and yeah, thanks guys for providing the opportunity. This was really cool. Later on I think in February, you guys will get to meet my wife and what she does. She's a attorney, right? So she does law, right? So something totally different, but also very interesting. So you'll get to hear from her and the types of things that she's done. So yeah, thanks for letting us do this.
All right, so stay tuned, and you will get a flyer with more information on Tanya Alaniz's Cybermentoring next month, February 21st.
Fernandez Alaniz. Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you.
Awesome. Y'all have a great one.